Mario games. Something about them are just the things that any gamer can get into. It's astounding how Nintendo puts so much effort into any kind of game in the series. With the huge amount of video game franchises we have that are impossible to count, it can be cumbersome trying to find one with consistently good games. But that's not something you often have to worry about with Mario. Obviously, Mario does have like one or two bad games, but with the amount of games with good quality and effort, it makes the bad games seem non-existent. People have their fair share of Mario titles that are worthy of playing, and I'm no different when it comes to this franchise. It's an honor to be one of the folks that have played every Mario game in existence, or at least every main series game in the timeline. Since I gave you all my top 10 favorite Sonic games last year, it's only fair that I do the same for Mario to honor this special occasion being Mario Day. The games that you'll be seeing on this list are ones that truly define the things that make Mario special. A few spin-off games will also be included since there's a lot more enjoyable games outside of the main 2D and 3D ones. Now, if you don't see a Mario game you love on here, that obviously doesn't mean I don't like it. If this were a top 15 or top 20 list, then maybe you'd see it, but I don't exactly have the time, energy, or patience for that, so you'll be getting my top 10 favorite games instead. And most importantly, and obviously, this is all my opinion, and not everybody has to agree with me. Alright, enough talk. Welcome to my top 10 best Super Mario games.
Mario vs. Donkey Kong.
Lo and behold, the Mario game that barely anyone talks about or even acknowledges nowadays. Mario vs. Donkey Kong is a game based on Donkey Kong 94 for Game Boy, which was based off of the original Donkey Kong arcade game in 1981. DK watches a commercial that advertises these new mini Mario toys and desperately wants one of his own for some reason. He then goes to a toy store only to find out that they're sold out of them and then robs the toy factory that makes them, which is right next to said toy store. Then Mario sets off to get the toys back. Like I said, the game is based off DK94 for Game Boy, which had you going through tons of puzzles, platforming, and insane challenges. This game takes that concept and goes straight to the moon with it and is quite frankly an even better game in my opinion. The game features 6 worlds with a boss fight at the end of each one, and the levels have you trying to grab a key and take it to the door that leads to a new section that has a mini Mario for you to pick up. Then after you complete the 6 worlds and defeat the final boss, the game tricks you with fake credits and gives you another 6 worlds to complete. And in the plus worlds, you're given a slightly new task, which is guiding a mini Mario with a key to the door, and this time there's only one section. The level themes get more uniquely detailed with each new one. I dig the atmosphere of Spooky House, Mystic Forest, and Twilight City. The Switch game even features 2 new worlds with 2 new gimmicks, which was more than appreciated as well. As expected, each world is featured with new obstacles and challenges that mostly involve 3 colored switches. And before you reach a boss, you're greeted to a specific level that has Mario guiding his little wind-up children to their toy box. Which I guess the developers paid close attention to when making the next couple of games for this spin-off series. If you ask me, the game has the right amount of challenge, and the fact that it's a GBA game is incredible. Plus, it gets refreshing when the time is right. Although it does get a teensy bit repetitive near the very end of it, and it could have you wondering when the hell it'll end. Either way, the game is really fun to me and is obviously a much better game than any of the sequels that sadly overshadowed this hidden gem. I'm still amazed how this game finally got the attention it deserved with that new remake, which was spectacular. Even though I heavily appreciate this updated version of bits, I'd much rather play the original just to hear Mario's cheesy but charming dialogue.
Hey, come back here! No, you don't! No, you don't! What are you doing? What's going on here? Oh, yeah, mamma mia, tutto rovato.
But I guess to appreciate the remake this game got, you'd have to be a big fan of the original in this case, which I am. I haven't even brought up the catchy soundtrack. That crunchy GBA sound quality really went all out here. I'm just so upset by how much this game gets tossed to the side so much whenever that one person in the back brings it up. Obviously, it's not anything too special, but the fact that the formula plays off of how these two glorious characters started out makes this such an innovative game to me. I recommend giving this game a try at least one time. And if you're too stubborn to buy the remake, then just go for the original if you can. It might speak to you the way it speaks greatly to me. Yep, I did say I'll be including spin-offs since they can also be qualified as a favorite of mine in the series. So, why is Party DS my favorite Mario Party? Well, apart from my nostalgic memories with it back then, I somehow had a lot more fun with this game than any other one in the series. Maybe it was the story mode and how creative it was, the boards being completely fun, or the fact that all of this is coming from a handheld Mario Party. And unfortunately, I have to bring up the infamous anti-piracy screen that was spreading around in 2020, which still makes me cringe. Anyway, as for the game, it really is the most underrated out of all the Mario parties we've had. It sure is better than most of those games that weren't developed by Hudson. I love how the minigames actually complement the plot of the story mode, which is about Bowser shrinking everyone. Just like every other game, there are several boards for you to play on, with my favorite being Toadette's Music Room. And I love Kamek's Library just for the eerie music alone. Gives me goosebumps every time. Even if you didn't have anybody to play this game with, like I did at the time, the high emphasis on all the single player content is very decent. It's a Mario Party game, so of course the minigames are enjoyable, and as you'd imagine, a few take advantage of the DS's features and capabilities. My favorites of the bunch are Camera Shy, Soap Surfers, and Cyber Scamper. The jump from Mario Party Advance to Mario Party DS is just completely unbelievable since Advance was nothing but disappointing. But the devs more than delivered with this game, and it's just a fun experience all around. The only real flaws that I can say about this game are the lack of interesting items to use on the boards and the weak character roster. Weird how this and Party 8 came out in the same year, but 8 has the better roster and items to use. And it's pretty dumb how this game gets ignored by the devs most of the time with some of the other games. Not a single one of the minigames here returned in Top 100, Superstars, or Jamboree. Other than that, Mario Party DS is a solid entry to this beloved spin-off series that I love going back to every now and then. It's one of the more creative ones and is just a blast to play overall, and I would recommend giving it a chance if you haven't already.
I'm the superstar. Here we go.
And just like that, we went from Party DS to Kart DS. This'll be a hot take, but I think Mario Kart DS is just the best kart game we've gotten. This one actually tried something brand new that none of the other kart games did, and that's the mission mode. You play as specific characters and are given tasks like collecting coins, driving through gates, beating rivals, etc. On top of that, this was the first Mario Kart game to feature fully remade retro tracks. Well, aside from Super Circuit. Speaking of tracks, this game has most of my favorite ones like Luigi's Mansion, Waluigi Pinball, Tick-Tock Clock, and Airship Fortress. This title just has tons of content to offer right off the bat. This might be a small thing, but I feel the drifting works a lot better than some of the other games that came after. Instead of just waiting for the red sparks to show up, you have to keep moving the D-pad left and right to wind it up. It's just something that requires a lot more attention, which I think works a lot better than just having the drift work on its own. In fact, it's thanks to this game that the R button on my DS randomly decides to not work whenever it wants to. It's just nice to know that I'm not the only one who had to go through that. And I would love to talk about the online mode, but the two sad things are that the online service doesn't work anymore, and I never got the chance to try it out. The character roster is quite good, but Rob the frickin' robot being playable caught me off guard when I unlocked him years ago. I really don't know why this needed to be a thing, but I think it's just the goofiest and best thing to come out of this game aside from the missions. The kart variety you're given is also pretty cool. You can drive a damn excavator for crying out loud. Something else that this game did that the others didn't were allowing you to create your own emblems to go on the vehicles. I'm shocked that this wasn't brought back in Mario Kart 7 at least. The battle mode is good enough, but to be honest, I never really cared that much for the battle modes for these games in general. I have sampled it in the past once or twice and enjoyed it for what it was worth, though. Mario Kart DS to me is the most unique a Mario Kart game can possibly get, and it has so many features that should have been brought back. For whatever the new Mario Kart for Switch 2 has planned, I hope it does justice to this game and has just as much, if not more, unique features like this.
It's me, Mario! Hello!
I'm glad that Super Mario 64 reared its glorious head on my list. But not just this version of the game, however, I'll also be including its child along with it too. Yeah, some of you might be stunned to hear me say that I prefer 64 DS over the original. I decided to have them both be an all-in-one package since they're literally the same game. But I won't lie to you, the original is a timeless classic and is also legendary. Definitely one of the most recognizable games of all time, and as for those graphics, yep, they've certainly aged, but that's why I appreciate the DS game a lot more. The OG game may have smoother controls, but I can't ignore how much better the game looks here, even on a DS screen. I'd go as far to say that this is one of Nintendo's best remakes. Let's get the obvious out of the way. The game gives you 4 characters to play as, those being Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Yoshi. Although, will I ever get a solid answer as to why people thought Waluigi was playable in this game back in the day? Each character has their own abilities. Mario can wall jump, Luigi can scuttle in the air and run on water for a bit, Wario can punch black crates and has the worst jumps, and Yoshi can eat enemies and throw eggs. The Power Flower is also something new that gives each character a weird ability like floating, turning metal, invisibility, etc. Along with the game obviously looking better, there's 30 more stars for you to collect that add up to 150 of them. Just like the N64 title, there's a several amount of jumps and glitches that you can perform which are great for speedrunning. This game overall just screams adventure with the many levels you can roam around in. Babam Battlefield, Womp's Fortress, Big Boo's Haunt, Cool Mountain, Hazy Maze Cave, and the list goes on. Also, can we talk about how insanely OP Luigi's backflip in this game is? There were so many stars that were meant to be collected with specific characters that I ended up getting with Luigi instead. My man is more of a god than ever here. Then you've got the minigames, which were a blast, and I think I might have spent more time with these than the actual game. It wouldn't be a DS game if there weren't any touchscreen controls involved, which luckily this game has plenty of that to offer, and not to offer. The Luigi Casino ones are way more addicting than they have any right to be, which makes sense since it is a casino. And you have good old Wanted, where you find the right face within the time limit. For any of you Twitter or Instagram users that rolled their eyes when you heard me bring this up, you know what's up. The music in both these games are absolutely iconic. Bowser's theme and especially the version during the Sky Fight are both peak. I've had too much fun with this game back in the day, and it's not difficult to see why. It's one of those things where you can tell that the company went all out here, and that is expressed perfectly. There's no denying that Super Mario 64 DS is for sure a top-tier DS game, or top-tier game for that matter. It's really that enjoyable.
Yeah!
Here we have an iconic gem of a 2D platformer. What a massive upgrade from the first 3 2D Mario games that came before. Not only is this one of my favorite games of all time, it's one of the best Super Nintendo games, no lie. Although I was clearly not alive during the ancient times with the Super Nintendo, most of my enjoyment came from the GBA port, which was my first Mario game. But honestly, I appreciate the original a bit more now since the colors look a lot better on the SNES than on the Game Boy screen. Mario is a little slippery to control in this game, but after the first couple of levels, you're bound to get used to it. I love how expansive the entire world map feels here. The Cape Feather is also one of the best power-ups in the series, simply because of how OP it is. You can cheese so many levels that it's just hilarious. And this was the game where Yoshi made his debut and has become a proud staple to this franchise. He's fun to use in this game as he can eat enemies, spit flames out, and fly around. I can hardly explain how much this game puts me in a good mood. Hell, the OST is already more than enough to do so. Whenever I go back to do a replay, I usually try to challenge myself by finding all the secrets, which I end up failing to do most of the time. And when I say this game gets challenging when it wants to, it really does. I'm not just talking about the levels in the special worlds. So many normal levels have random difficulty spikes that'll cost you 4 to 5 lives. But I can't even get mad since it's always a treat to have tough challenges in a Mario game. What about the bosses? Well, they certainly are bosses, I can say that much. A majority of them are the Koopalings, which I'm sick to death of seeing, but at least there's a bit more strategy with a few of them here. The final boss is genius at the very least. Bowser throws Mecha Koopas at you and you have to kick them back in the air to have them land on his head. But the bosses overall are very forgettable. A lot of my joy mostly came from the levels and everything else the game had to offer. I know there are people that prefer Super Mario Bros. 3 over this game, but something about Worlds just makes me feel a lot more satisfied. Guess that mostly comes from my childhood bias once again. I'd say this is one of the games that I think every gamer needs to try at least once, since I feel there's no other game in the series quite like it. Here's where the controversy really starts to show itself. There are many things I have to say about Super Paper Mario, especially with the fact that I think it's better than the Thousand Year Door. And I can proudly say that now since I've played both games from start to finish. You basically have to call this game a spin-off of a spin-off, since even though it's not an RPG like the other games, it's a 2D platforming adventure with RPG elements implemented here. I love this game for a multitude of reasons that I just need to touch upon now. First things first, this is one of the most deepest storylines Mario has ever had. Count Bleck summons a Chaos Heart to destroy the universe, and Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Bowser set out to stop him as the 4 heroes of prophecy by collecting 8 pure hearts. But it goes much further than that. The plot is a love story about this dude who got his heart broken because his loved one was taken away and wanted to end the whole world with a dark prophecy because of that. Love is a crazy thing, they say, and I couldn't agree more. This game is E for everyone, by the way, but I have to give tons of props to Nintendo and Intelligent Systems for not holding back with this game's story. And after this game, we were greeted with Sticker Star, which you guys should already know how much that game aggravated me. Seriously, who says a Mario game can't tackle with an amazing and well-told story? But these character designs, though, they are quite the mixed bag when taking a look at each and every one. A handful of them look bearable, but the others feel a little uncanny. Ignoring that, a lot of the worlds you visit in this game are all very interesting in their own way. But then you have places like the Underwear, which is basically a G-rated version of Hell. And I kid you not, there's an entire chapter where you wander around in a white void for several minutes with a pure heart at the end of it. These kind of things make you realize that if the heroes stop now, the entire universe is screwed. But enough about the story. This game seems to switch gameplay genres in practically every chapter. One second it's a 2D platformer, then a 3D platformer, space shooter, dating simulator, and tons of other bizarre choices. And you have a power-up called the Mega Star, which is no different than the Mega Mushroom. It's only in a few areas and no more or less. Another key factor is the pixels, which are good to use when the time is right. But you won't be using all of them minus a few for the majority of the game, except for like one puzzle or something, and that's it. Just like every other Paper Mario game, there's a boss battle at the end of each chapter, and these bosses are freaking wacky as hell. Fractail obviously sticks out the most since he's on the box art for some reason, but the Bowser battles are literally just there to progress the game forward with no depth whatsoever. It's like this game is literally trying every idea in the book, and it somehow managed to exceed my expectations. A small drawback I can think of for this game is that you can only play it with the Wii Remote sideways and not with a nunchuck, GameCube controller, or Classic controller. This game was released only a year after the Wii launched, so I guess they still wanted to have a strong emphasis on the gimmick of this console around that time. Say what you will about this crazy game, but nobody can deny the sheer amount of creativity it offers. All I can say is if someone ever asks what my favorite Paper Mario game is, I for sure won't hesitate to say Super Paper Mario without a doubt. I'm really just praising up a storm for a majority of the DS Mario titles at this point, huh? Whenever folks talk about the new Super Mario Bros. Games, it's usually not in a good way. It's understandable, but I sometimes like to look for things that games do right, and thankfully, New Super Mario Bros. On the DS got almost everything right. This is another top-tier Mario game in my eyes because out of all the new games, this one offers tons of creativity. The last 2D Mario game at the time was World, not counting the GBA ports of the older games. And what a solid return to form New Super Mario Bros. Was, because I can't help but smile each time I replay it. For starters, they took some moves that you'd originally find in a 3D Mario game and brought them to 2D, and it works. Mario's also got tons of other cool moves and stuff he can pull off, like a triple jump, swinging across gaps, clinging to walls, and tightrope walking. One thing that makes this game better than Super Mario World for me is that the controls aren't slippery. I'm kinda glad that you don't have that little air twirling move that was used in some games afterwards, since it provides more challenge and precise jumping moments. I'm still not over the fact that this is the only game in the new series with good boss fights. All of them are unique, engaging, and aren't just the damn Koopalings, which Nintendo is too addicted with. The final boss is a bit cheap though, but I can let it slide. Despite that, this game has also got some goofy looking enemies like Bruisers, Splunkins, Balloon Boos, and tons more. And if you press R and L before selecting a file, you can play as Luigi, which is always a pleasure. Admittedly, the world map is not as good as Mario World's was. It's too straightforward and linear for me, which is fine if other people like it, but that's just me. And the game sorta lacks power-ups, which is sad because all the new ones we have here are great. Obviously, there's the Mega Mushroom, which is the main reason why this game sold so well, along with the Mini Mushroom and a Blue Shell, which are both fun to use on their own. But most of the time, you're just gonna end up with a Fire Flower. This is clearly the best game in the new series, and there's no denying it at all. Don't get me wrong, because New Super Mario Bros. Wii is definitely my next favorite in the series, since I've also enjoyed a good chunk of that game as well. Most of the mini-games from SM64 DS return alongside a couple of new ones, which is nice. Good grief, they were really growing strong with the term new for this game already, eh? The multiplayer was also fun to play for its time, but I wish I still had someone to play it with these days. As much as this game gets shafted when people bring up the later games, I think it deserves the title as one of the best 2D Mario games. For me, however, I'd consider it to be the best 2D Mario we've ever gotten. How do I even begin to describe how much of a marvelous game 3D World is? Well, I guess by saying that it's a major improvement from 3D Land. That game is fun and all, but it felt a lot more restrictive than it should have been, even for a handheld game. 3D World does nothing but make things better though. To put it simple, the levels are basically a 2D Mario level but stretched to 3D, and a lot of them are charming to play. Instead of capturing Peach, this time Bowser is after these colored fairies from the Sprixie Kingdom and Mario and crew set out to save them. Something I really appreciate is some of the themes for worlds on the map having a bit more interesting appeal. A few of them have pretty basic themes like grass, desert, cloud, and lava, but areas like World 3, 4, and 5 have much more appealing aesthetics. That includes World Bowser, which is more than fitting for his personality, along with the music that plays. There are a handful of levels that have tons of cool gimmicks, like riding Plessie, ice skating, speedrunning, and so on and so forth. Although Champion's Road is extremely soul-draining. Just like Super Mario Bros. 2, the 4 characters you can choose to pick from all play differently. Mario is all around and simple to use, Luigi jumps higher, Peach floats in the air, which is good for beginners, and Toad runs fast, which works for expert players. And once you complete a level in World Star, Rosalina is unlocked and has a spin attack, which is a nice callback to Galaxy. The cat suit is one of, if not my favorite power-up in the series, as it's super fun to use and has you climb walls, which is super OP. The double cherry is pretty good as well, but it only really works for a few levels and nothing more. A lot of the boss fights are great, as you'd imagine, with the only 2 ones I didn't like as much being Boom Boom and Pom Pom, as they're too simple. But none of them top the final boss. Bowser uses a cat bell and turns into Meowser, and the both of you work your way to the top of the skyscraper. Then he later uses some double cherries, and to knock all of them out, you just hit the conveniently placed PAL block and then save the day. Oh, and of course you have the fabulous masterpiece that is this game's soundtrack. Jazz music and Mario are such an awesome dynamic duo. Just like many other fans, Histocrat is my favorite track because those trumpets go insanely hard. This game, dude, it was really one of the most influential Mario games to ever exist. I love it so much that I remembered where each and every stamp and green star are located. Unfortunately, I do have to admit that this game is quite a downgrade after some big 3D games we've had before. Going from a game like Galaxy to this is pretty weird, but it doesn't ruin the game itself by any means. There's a reason why many people, including myself, got excited when the game got ported to Switch a few years ago. On top of all that, the game just looks beautiful and is so wonderfully detailed. And if you have friends, all of you gotta give the multiplayer a shot because it gets crazy, let me tell ya. I know that for sure. 3D World kept things fresh and exciting all the same, and I couldn't be happier of it existing and making its way to number 3 on my list.
Dude, you alright over there?
No! I can't decide which game I like more that deserves a spot on the list! They're both calling to me!
Yeah, well, you better hurry it up, because you've got 10 seconds left until you gotta start the next section of the vid. Just choose the game that calls you the loudest. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and action.
Alright, fine. Galaxy 2. You bet your asses I'm one of those people that prefer Galaxy 2 over the first game. Even after almost 5 years, I'm still pissed by how it got snubbed in 3D All-Stars. Obviously, this doesn't mean I don't like the first game, because to give credit where it's due, it has a much better story and hub world. But these are mainline Mario games. The gameplay is where it really matters, and that reason alone is why I like this game more. They took all the things that were adored in Galaxy, which was everything, and cranked most of it to about 1,000. Plus, Yoshi is in the game, which is enough to make it better. Something that Galaxy 2 really did right was the large amount of power-ups that were in the levels. The Cloud Flower, the Rock Mushroom, the Dash Pepper, the Bolt Berry, it's all too much, man. The mechanics that are featured just make it a fun time. Like I said, this game just has better levels, areas, and things for you to explore. Same goes for bosses, especially Gobblegut. I have so many favorite galaxies, but one of them is for sure Supermassive Galaxy, cause everything is big. And Throwback Galaxy is splendid because it's an updated version of Whomp's Fortress from 64, with new music. The challenges are more enticing too, and it convinces you to get better and better as you make your way through. Everything is a bit more straightforward and has less roadblocks also, which I can really appreciate. This time you have a world map, which makes it easier for people who are just wanting to play a game instead of mapping things out yourself. I swear, it's like the game just never runs out of ideas because each new area just keeps you wanting to never put the controllers down. Honestly, it's very difficult to even come up with any complaints for Galaxy 2 on my own, because there's hardly anything to dislike. I guess I can say that the final boss isn't as grand as the first game and lacks any sort of completion when you get it done. You just ground pound the stones at the right moment and take the easiest W of all time. Even the second portion of the final boss is nothing but a complete joke. Ignoring that, the soundtracks in both of these games really make you feel like you're in an actual orchestra. Sky Station Galaxy is one of the best songs in the franchise, period. Even to this day, fans clamor for a Galaxy 3, and even I would love for that to happen, but that sadly doesn't seem to be the case at all. Despite having played Galaxy 1 first, the sequel really stuck out to me in more ways than one. People can have all the debates they want over which game is better, but all I can say is I won't have any trouble deciding over the two. It'll never make sense to me as to why Nintendo seems to keep this game locked in a vault and act like it doesn't exist in our current timeline. Sure, one can argue that 2 feels more of the same, but there's no way I can make that argument. I love Super Mario Galaxy 2, and I'm glad to still own the game. If you have a Wii console, this is for sure a must-have for that system, hands down. Even with all that said, there's one game that really set the bar extremely high for how spectacular this franchise is for me. And that's the game you're about to see on number 1. Let's hurry up and get to it already.
Super Mario Sunshine! Woohoo!
Yes, you heard right, ladies and gentlemen. Super Mario Sunshine is a masterpiece of a game, and there's not a single flaw I can think of. The levels are great, the difficulty is spot on, and it is just a masterpiece of a game. You guys should see the look on your faces right now thinking I would actually say all that stuff about Sunshine. Yeah, screw that. Hit it! That's more like it. If you're one of the 2 people on the planet that followed my channel since 2017, you'd know that I've talked about this game more than 100 times. Even after all those times, I will never get enough of this game because it's literally one of the best things to come from the gaming industry. It's almost like Nintendo knew all of the things I loved about these games and just compiled them all into one beautiful package. One thing pops into my head whenever I bring this game up, and that is the visuals along with the cinematics. Good lord, am I watching a movie or playing a video game? The cutscenes, the worlds, the characters, and pretty much everything is brought to life in the best way possible. Something that is also wonderful are the controls and how this is the best and smoothest Mario has ever felt to control. All the insane jumps you can pull off in specific locations further prove this. They brought back the dive attack for crying out loud. Cappy is one of the best sidekicks Mario has ever had throughout his adventures. Once you boot up the game for the first time, you get a hint of what the plot is this time. Bowser tries to marry Princess Peach, again, and goes through several kingdoms to get the essential items needed for his wedding. And along with Peach, he also stole Cappy's sister, Tiara. You can capture about 50 plus things throughout your journey, and it's all just so fun. Surprises await for you around every corner and inch of this gem of a game. In the first kingdom, you take control over a frog, and then in the kingdom right after, you take control of a damn T-Rex. While we're on the topic, every kingdom is a blast to look around from top to bottom, has tons of moons for you to collect, and includes amazing music to go along with them. It's obvious that my favorite one is none other than New Donk City because of the fact that everything is a DK reference and Pauline is the mayor. Even if it is kinda unnatural to see these crazy Sims-looking humans in my Mario game. My other favorite kingdoms are Fossil Falls, Forgotten Isle, Shiveria, and Mount Valbono. There's not a single kingdom in the game that disappointed me. I can't even begin to explain how refreshing it is to have a Bowser area that isn't themed around a lava castle this time. I love how the game seems to leap from art style to art style with each new kingdom, and it's just a never-ending experience. Now, I'm one of those gamers that likes to explore and go for a 100% playthrough, and this is the perfect game to do so. Folks often claim that some Power Moons just repeat themselves throughout every kingdom, which is true. But 64 and Sunshine did the same thing as well, so there's barely a difference there. And the bosses. Oh my god, the bosses. Each and every one of them have clever ways of dealing damage to the bad guys. Did I mention that you fight a literal freaking dragon at one point during the game? When I say this caught me off guard, I mean it really caught me off guard. The Ruined Kingdom overall never ceases to make me question on this actually being in a Mario game. The Bowser battles are fantastic, and the music in both of them is godlike. But after that second Bowser battle, it was only the start of how much insane things would get at that point. Once the three fall through the moon, there's nothing to do but throw your cap at the knocked out Koopa and take control of his entire body and evacuate the area. He controls great, and it felt so satisfying all around. As for the OST, this is the Mario game with a handful of my favorite songs. Jump Up Superstar is clearly up there, and the rendition of Peach's castle is remarkable. Yoshi is even back on top of the castle, but instead of riding him, you can become him. Oh yeah, and there's of course that infamous ending with Peach rejecting both Mario and Bowser and almost leaving Mario on the moon. Just like everyone and their mother, I was annoyed at Peach too, but after getting older and understanding her point of view, it makes sense as to why she would be this way considering what she had to go through. So much love and care was put into this game just by looking at all the snappy outfits you can wear and just all the small details as well. The adrenaline I get when going through this masterpiece is enough to make me cry tears of joy. I can try to accept that there are some people out there who don't like this game, but for the most part, I just can't understand why. Super Mario Odyssey is more than just a video game, more than just an experience. It is a blessing that this game even exists in the first place. Not only is it my favorite Mario game, it's my favorite Switch game in general. Even after almost 8 damn years. I highly doubt there's ever going to be another Mario game that fills me with the same kind of emotions that this game gave me ever again. Knowing Nintendo, they can possibly pull it off, but even so, I'm super honored to have this be the Mario game of my dreams. It really is a dream come true, and now that I've said all this, I just want to replay the game and get every single moon all over again. Where's Super Mario Odyssey 2?
Gonna start.
I really wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for these Mario games to bring me up whenever I'm in a bad mood. TBH, it was difficult trying to pick favorites out of the hundreds of ones there are to choose from. And who knows if any of these games might still be my favorites in the near future. Anything can change when it comes to franchises as successful as this. Almost every game has something exciting to offer, and it leaves me wondering what the devs have in store for us next. But even if Mario Day only comes once a year, who says you're not allowed to pick up and play one anytime you want? After all, every day is a Mario Day. Anytime is a good time to play a Mario game, and his games are enough to make you smile and bring sunshine to a rainy day. I'm always optimistic for this plumber. All of what I said about him just proves how important he is to the world. Thank you Miyamoto, and thank you Charles Martinet for bringing this super icon to life for 40 years. And also thanks to you all for watching this video and hearing my thoughts. Feel free to share thoughts on any of the games I've mentioned or any of your favorite Mario games in the comments below. With that said, hope everyone here enjoyed and have a good Mario Day. Till next time, folks, farewell.